Aya Chanda or Ajahn Chanda. Or, how was the other one you call yourself? Yeah, Charya Chanda. Yeah. Okay. I have to keep saying different ones until I get it right. One of the nice things about being a monk, though, you're not afraid of making mistakes. When you make mistakes, that's when it gets fun. So I got here nice and early, no one else was here, and I started, but I was very diligent. When it came to 5 o'clock, I opened my eyes, checked it's 5 o'clock, and had a look. There was only about 15 people here. I thought, nah. It did say on the schedule that the morning chanting was optional. That's what it says. So I decided to make it optional for me. So I didn't do any. So anyway, I just sat through it and enjoyed myself. And had a wonderful time. Honestly, when you just meditate, you don't do what you're supposed to do, whatever that is. It's nice, you're lovely and peaceful. And just like I said last night, that if you have a nice meditation, you go back to your breakfast afterwards, and your breakfast is more delicious than ever before. So do you like food? Do you like eating? Do you like to get the best out of it? If you do, then do your meditation and get really strong, powerful, wonderful. And then all your eating is even more delicious. You can see that I'm true to my word. Why else do you think I've got this? It's just because when you meditate, everything is more delicious. And today, instead of just touting meditation, how great it is, most of you are convinced about that so far, that's why you're here. And every time, I don't know why it is, every time I go and give a retreat here or teach meditation there, weird, it's my work. I really look forward to it. I enjoy meditating, especially a retreat. A retreat, yes, I'm going on a retreat. Wonderful. Even teaching it. Because every now and again, you see the people who come on retreat, they get some nice meditation. And I know it's a nice meditation. I don't have to have an interview with you. I look at your face. I look at just how you are enjoying this moment and how it's automatic to relax into this moment. And you're sitting there with a nice smile on your face. It's also one of the reasons why I always wondered on these retreats, when should we do the group photograph? I know that many times people say, this particular retreat which somebody else was teaching, look how happy they are on the group photograph. I say, yeah, because it's the last day, they're going home tonight. They can eat whatever they want. So, should we do the group photograph on the first day of the retreat? So we're more honest? And no monkeys are allowed. No, you should do actually the middle, I reckon. Because in the middle, that's when, okay, you're going home, but you are just getting your energy coming up. By the end of the retreat, you should be flying without the use of Scoot or Singapore Airlines or whatever carrier you came on. It's nice and peaceful and beautiful. So I don't know whatever you decide to do with photographs, but nevertheless, there's many different types of meditation available to be taught these days. Which is the best type of meditation to do? You know the answer to that? My type of meditation. We always promote our own. But basically, there's only one type of meditation, which is just the letting go, being peaceful, blissing out, and being free of this body, and just letting this mind calm down and vanish too. Simple. There are many different methods. There are many different beginnings to the path of meditation. But eventually, everyone gets to that point where your body is so relaxed, so peaceful, it can disappear. And that's one of the best. When it disappears, your mind hasn't disappeared yet. You're perfectly aware, more aware than usual. And when you are aware like that, if it's going to be maintained, it can't be through effort, because the effort always needs to be reinforced, to be checked, to make sure it's always happening. Well, the loveliest part of meditation, where you sit down there, and what I usually say these days, relax to the max. Look, most of you are Singaporean. How hard do you have to work in Singapore? You have to work so hard. Have you seen me working hard? Sometimes. But when you don't see me, that's when I'm not working hard. That's when I'm hiding in my cave. When you or even in the room which I usually sit in here, in the teacher's cottage. My room is a nice, actually quite a big bedroom. It's much bigger than the ones you give me at the Buddhist Fellowship. I don't mind though, the ones over there, they're great. I really enjoyed that little room which you gave me, because you can shut the windows, and it was actually quiet. And you can shut the window and shut the door, and it's like being in my cave. You can't see anything, it's quiet. How much room do you need? Actually, a little box, that's what I need. So, sorry?
That's what we gave you.
No, it's much bigger than a box. Next time. If you want to build another centre somewhere, just a little box about this size, closed, just so I can sit down and I can't hear anything. Deal? Okay. That's all you really need. It's just that solitude. That idea of solitude, what actually is solitude? You can just be in a nice little mansion just by yourself, and everything you need you have. But is that real solitude? The real solitude is built by your mind. When your mind is so content and happy, it doesn't need anything. That was one of those little questions I was asking myself just a few days ago. Ajahn Brahm, what do you need? The reason I asked that of myself, because somebody asked me, Ajahn Brahm, it's the end of the Range Retreat, thank you so much for your teachings, what can I get for you? And I thought, a lemon. No, I'll share this with others. And basically there's nothing. And you ask that question of yourself, you give an honest answer. You don't need anything. You're really happy. And because of that, and sometimes they say, what about if I can give you some silence? You know that sometimes all I do is I close my eyes. And to get that silence, wherever you are, is I kind of imagine, this is my little method, a bubble around me. When I imagine that bubble around me, I've done this so often, for so long, you can create that kind of bubble. And inside that bubble, that's like my cave. I've got my eyes closed so I can't see anything, whether there's people out there, there's not people out there. It's also, you've learned the method of like closing your ears. In other words, whatever the people are saying outside, that's their business, not mine. When there's any noise, there's always some noise. Like right now, can you hear the aircon? It's rumbling away in the background. Is it actually aircon or is it heating things up? Heating things? Oh, doesn't matter. So I close my ears to that. And also many of the other things which you can hear here. Could be a noise, could be an aircraft overhead. There's very few aircraft overhead. It's not under a flight path. Or there can be something else, somebody sneezing or banging the door. But one thing which I always remember, if there's any sound, it's not that the sound disturbs you. You disturb the sound. That was Ajahn Chah's teaching. Because once in those early years over in northeast Thailand, people were very poor. But when they were going to have a celebration or a party, my goodness, they really went for it. Usually had their party for about 3 or 4 days. So when they got tired, it was about 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, they crashed out. And then when they woke up, they carried on. That's crazy stuff. It may be okay for villagers. You know, they're having a time off at some celebration. But for the monks, you know, we'd hear that noise late at night when we were meditating. And 1 a.m., 2 a.m., about 2 a.m., they would, maybe 2:30, they would stop and they were tired out. So they would sleep wherever they were. And 3 a.m., that's when our monastery bell went. Ding, ding, ding. We had to get up for our morning meditation and chanting. We're only getting a half an hour's sleep at night, if we were lucky. And okay, you can do that for 1 or 2 days. But when it came to the 3rd day and they were still carrying on, oh, that was very tough. Being a young man and still having only half an hour sleep at night or an hour sleep at night. And of course, when Ajahn Chah gave a talk, of course you fell asleep. Not our fault, it's those villagers. You can't complain because they feed you. So one day we decided, let's ask Ajahn Chah for a solution. So we went to see him and said, look, it's getting very hard. It's actually, in a place like Singapore, it would be against the law. Only to be given half an hour sleep a night. And so we asked him, please, can you just ask those villagers to finish at 1 a.m.? Only just give us an extra hour. It's not asking for much. You know what Ajahn Chah said? No. And that's when he taught us. It's not the noise disturbs you. It's you who disturb the noise. First time I've heard anything like that. What do you mean, I disturb the noise? I didn't create the noise. How can I disturb the noise? And that's when he started to explain that noise is part of nature. And the more you disturb it, the louder it gets. And the more disturbing, most of the disturbance does not come from nature or the noise itself. It comes from you complaining. And that's so wise. I didn't like that answer at the time, because I knew Ajahn Chah, if he said to the lay people to be quiet, they would follow. They wouldn't follow the Western monks, we were just newcomers. And they didn't respect us so much. But I thank Ajahn Chah for that teaching. It was the noise disturbed you. No, that was wrong. It's you who disturbed the noise. The noise was there. Why do you react to it? Why do you start to think, it shouldn't be like this? It's happening. Not only happening, but basically noise, because it's part of nature, you can't stop it. And a lot of times, if you just let it be, don't fight it. First of all, it gets much softer, and then it becomes unimportant, none of my business, and because it's none of your business, you can relax, you've got nothing to do with it. That's when it kind of disappears. And I loved practicing like that in so many different scenarios. If I'm meditating, people come in, go out and come in, or whatever, I just kind of sit here. And after a while, you can't hear it anymore. The brain turns off. It gets to this, I don't know if you've got this in your mobile phones, the button called mute. I don't have a mobile phone, I have a tablet, and that's one of my favorite buttons. Mute and delete. Honestly. Because this actually makes the world quiet, and I've got no business. Unfortunately, being a senior monk, I do have lots of business, sometimes. But honestly, I'd have no peace if I didn't know how to mute and delete. So those are my favourite buttons. So that's, if you want to give me a nickname, call me Ajahn Mute. Or Ajahn Delete. And a few times, whenever you have kind of these understandings or theories, you have to test it out. And I've still got that science background. Put it to the test, see if it works. And I always remember some wonderful times, when you did this, and it's absolutely amazing. Once, it was the Burmese Buddhist community over here. You get to be friendly with all the different communities over here, especially the Buddhist ones. Many years ago, and they were saying they wanted to do something to bring to people's attention what was actually happening in Burma and how many people were being put in jail, tortured, killed and stuff. Quite a few years ago now. And so they were going to hold a little a protest, but not violent, not active. They were just going to sit meditation on the steps outside this church in the middle of Perth, opposite Hay Street Mall. If any of you have gone shopping in there. Maybe there's many places in Perth you don't know, but the shops I think many of you know. Is that true? No? Excellent. Same with me. Sometimes, Orchard Road, I gave a talk somewhere in Orchard Road in some theatre over there. That's the only thing I know about Orchard Road. What's the point of me going to Orchard Road? I've got no money. And that's wonderful. I don't want any. What would I do with money? Give it away. So anyhow, sitting for 2 hours. This was on the paving stones, no cushions, just paving stones, in one of the busiest, noisiest venues in the whole of Perth. And when we were sitting, I made sure I sat just opposite the other side of the road. There was a shop called, I think I've got it right still, Time Zone it was called. The video game store where people go in there and play video games, and they were blaring out sort of terrible music. They called it music. I think it was a bit of a rough description of what they were playing. Much worse than music. But anyhow, it was so incredibly noisy. And I had 2 hours to sit. Can you sit when it's so noisy? Maybe tomorrow we can test this out. We can broadcast some loud music on the PA system instead of me. But that's where that idea of creating a bubble around you really helped. So there I was meditating, and imagine this bubble around me, and what was inside was important. What was beyond that bubble was not important at all. It was just sound. I didn't have to pay it attention. I didn't try to ignore it. Trying to ignore things or suppress things or get rid of things makes it much worse. It's giving it importance. And importance leads to attention. It's just noise. My job is not to disturb it, let it be. Have you ever heard that word before? Let it be. When you let it be, it's just background. And it doesn't change very much, it's just sound. Because it's not important, the mind turns off and doesn't listen to the sound. It listens to other things instead, like the breath going in and out, or just a peace starting to grow inside of your mind, all these really meditative things. And it was so much easier than I ever thought was possible. Sitting there deliberately in the middle of Perth, in the most important part of Perth, the most busiest shopping place in Perth, and just being able to meditate there, no worries. And I do that also. One of the other experiences I had with that was, again, one of the things which I do a lot, as you know, is travelling. And when I arrived in Bangkok once, it was for a conference, and the people who picked me up said, there's somebody else arriving in about an hour's time. So we're not quite sure what to do with you. You would like a cup of tea or coffee, or can't find a nice quiet place you can sit? I said, this is quiet enough. What are you talking about? This is the place where everybody comes in and goes out, and one of the main sort of arrival halls. It's good enough. So I said, okay, in an hour's time I'll come out and say hello to you. So I just sat there on one of the ordinary seats and just meditated. Created my bubble around me and just sat there. And it works. You can't hear much past you. And you can get some nice meditation. Yes, it was like background noise. You could hear people, oh, thank you for coming. Oh, it's nice to see you again. Oh, we'll miss you. As people met their relations, when they talked and when they did all sorts of other noisy things, like with their baggage and stuff, or they argued with somebody. That was so far in the background, like a long distance away. And what you were hearing was just right next to you, and it was a silence in my bubble. And it's a wonderful thing to develop, because it means you can meditate anywhere, literally. It can be the noisiest place in the world, but where you're sitting is quiet. You're not disturbing the noise. And the noise is not disturbing you when you don't disturb it. One of the other stories I love telling, was when one of the monks here, one of the young monks, he told me that his brother was coming to visit Perth from Europe. And we didn't have enough rooms to stay. That's one of the problems. As you know, a lot of times you say, oh, can I just stay a bit longer in Bodhinyana Monastery or Jhana Grove? I like it here. And this place is so popular. It's so hard to find a room in this place. Sometimes I wonder when I go, say, to Singapore to teach a retreat or something, whether someone will get my room when I'm gone. But anyhow, I had to tell him, look, it's a busy time. There is no spare rooms for anybody. And he said, I figured that out already. Said he could stay in my hut. We're brothers, we're same mum, we grew up together. So, it's not a big bedroom, but, we can put 2 beds in there or sleep on the floor. Are you sure? He said yes. So I asked him the second question. Does your brother snore? I don't know, even in your cottage, in your room next door, do the people in the next room snore? Do you snore? Sometimes people ask me that on the questions. What do we do if the people in the next room to us snores? They can wake you up and keep you awake at night. This is a wonderful retreat center. At least you have your own room. In many of these places, you have to have dormitories. My goodness, that's very dangerous. Just one person in that dormitory who snores and has no sleep at night. So that's why many people say, Ajahn Brahm, out of compassion for everybody, can you keep a list of the snorers? And people always think other people snore. They never put their own name down. But most of you, after a certain age, you tend to snore. And so, of course, no, I won't do that. And of course, how do you deal with snoring? It can be so loud, and it's even in the next room in your cottage to you. What do you do? So simple. This monk told me, I've figured this all out. What I am going to do is I'm going to make sure I go to sleep first. And if I'm already asleep, then my brother has to endure my snoring. Not very nice, but practical. And so when you have an idea like that or a strategy like that, it always goes wrong. How it went wrong is his brother went to sleep first. And my goodness, this monk said, his brother snored so loudly. And it was a small room. And it was snoring so loudly, how on earth could I ever get to sleep? And so he started sitting up meditating, tried all sorts of strategies, nothing worked. And then he finally thought of Ajahn Chah's advice. It's not your brother snoring that's disturbing you. You are disturbing your brother snoring. So what does that mean? And he thought about that for a few minutes. He got an idea. He was educated over in Europe, had a very good education, and one of his best subjects was music. So he said, music has so many different forms. So he started to imagine the rhythm of his brother's snoring, the beat of it, which was totally disorganized and chaotic, as this state-of-the-art, experimental, modern music. Whenever people think of any beating or rhythm, they always think it's got a pattern to it, and you try and find that pattern. He was just deliberately destroying all patterns of any music with his snoring. And after a while, his brother found it incredibly inspiring and melodic. He'd never heard anything like this before. This was state-of-the-art, experimental music coming out of his brother's nose. And the next thing he knew, he woke up in the morning. It was so beautiful, it was not a problem, and he fell fast asleep. And I love repeating that story. So if any of you get upset because somebody is snoring very loudly, doesn't matter, listen to it. Don't try and get rid of it. When you welcome it in, then you can relax. And once you relax, then you fall asleep because it disappears. That's so much about life. What problems have you got in your life? You got any problems, or are you just having a nice, peaceful life? Being a senior monk with lots of monks and nuns to look after, lots of monasteries to oversee, lots of places to go and visit to make sure everyone's okay. There's no problems at all being a senior monk. See, no problems at all. Please, you're leading a monastery over in England. Please remember, It's not the anagarikas who disturb you. You disturb. No, I'm not going to go any further. I get into big trouble. But you know what I'm trying to say. So you do whatever you can, and you can't do any more. You let it go. And a lot of times, it shows us just how to deal with the problems in life. Stop worrying about them. They're important. Yeah. I've been a monk a long time now. And all the difficult problems, you have to do something. I have, as much as I can. And then you let go and relax. It's important to be able to do that, especially with sound. And all of the other memories you have about your life back in wherever you've come from. Right now, you are not Singaporean. You're not Sri Lankan. You're not Thai. You're not English. You're not, where else are you from? You're not Malaysian. You were when you were in your own country. Right now, you are a person who's let go of that world for 8-9 days on retreat. Imagine what that's like, being on retreat. You're like a monk or a nun for 6 or 7 days. You get to feel it. What are your duties? Your duties is to get up in the morning, have breakfast, maybe lunch. What else do you have to do? Maybe brush your teeth and have a shower every now and again. It's wonderful when the monastics, when they just go on retreat themselves, they don't have to have a shower. Unless they feel it's the right time. That's when you see a few monks, they hide themselves. And if you creep up on them, you see they're getting long beards. And smelly too. But not too smelly. The thing is, you get used to your own smell. So sometimes it's good to have somebody else check you out, whether you need a bath or not a shower. But that was one of the wonderful things about, going on long retreats. There's only one person smelling you, and that was you. And you felt healthy enough. Because you felt healthy enough, you felt clean enough, there was no problems, you could actually meditate for hours or even longer. And you had no duties to do. Why do you have a shower? Why do you, get clean clothes? Why? A lot of times it's to please others. When you're a senior monk, that's what I've got to do, please others. But when you're on a retreat, a middle monk, junior monk, you don't have to please anybody at all. So you can sit there and get really dirty. Well, like one of the monks here. That's why we don't encourage people to walk deep into the forest. There's signs over in Bodhinyana, meditation area, monks area, just no further. Reason is because sometimes his exercise, he loves doing this, is actually to hang upside down naked. I don't know. But I've never seen him. Thank goodness. He read it somewhere that's good for your health. I don't know. Anyway, what am I actually talking about this for anyway? The nice thing to do is to actually learn what sounds you hear, what you see in the sky when it rains. One of the nice things which I love with rain is actually to go outside and get wet. You don't have to worry about what you're supposed to do or what you're not supposed to do. It's a nice experience. Get really nice and soaking out there in the rain. You soon dry off. And what it's doing is exploring physical feelings which are not harmful, but which is kind of stimulating. It's nature bathing you. It's not the right time of the year to talk about this, but at the beginning of the rains retreat, we have this ceremony of offering rainy season bathing cloths. I don't know if you've heard of that before. Wasika Satika. In Thai, Pa Ab Nam Phon. And that's for the monks and the nuns to offer these special gifts. And where it originated from was in those early years of monasticism. It was so simple. We never had, I can't say we. The monks and nuns never had showers. They would usually bathe in the rivers. But when the monsoons came, those rivers would become so fast flowing, the current was so strong, they became dangerous. Sometimes if you lose your footing close to the bank where you were bathing, you'd actually get carried by the current and go downstream somewhere and maybe not find your way back. But anyway, during one of the days of the rains retreat, just at the beginning of the rains retreat, there was a heavy rainstorm, and the Buddha and the monks, they were supposed to go to someone's house for dana. They were making merit at the beginning of the rains retreat, and that person was Visakha, and the foremost female devotee of the Buddha in that area. And once the food was ready, Visakha sent her maid, I think, a senior maid, please go to the monastery and invite the Buddha and the Sangha. Now is the time to come for the meal. So off she went to the monastery to invite the Sangha. And when she went there, all she saw, what she thought, were these naked spiritual seekers, naked ascetics. And so there's no monks here. So she went back and said, there's no one in. In that monastery there was just naked ascetics. Of course you know what it was. It wasn't naked ascetics. It was all the monks. They had decided, it's a heavy rainstorm, a good time to take a shower. So taken off all their robes and stuff and were showering themselves, naked. And Visakha was really smart, and she said, go back again. I think you'll find the monks are back. And of course, it only takes a few minutes to have a shower. And of all those monks, sometimes what I kept on wondering when I read that story, because after they went the second time, the monks were all robed up, and they came for the dana, led by the Buddha. One of those naked ascetics would have been the Buddha. Imagine the maid having that privilege of seeing the Buddha. I don't know, maybe I'm weird, but anyway, I think I'm well behaved. So anyway, then after that, as people often do after offering a dana, they said, can I please, make some more merit? May I be the person who offers rainy season bathing cloths to all the monks and special rainy season bathing cloths to the nuns and quite a few other things. And the Buddha understood the reason why. He said, because maybe in a monastery it doesn't matter so much, but respectable people, if you go to a monastery and see people naked, I think you will start to know what's going on here. You may not go again. Sometimes it's offensive to some people. So that's where that one came from. The only reason I'm telling that story was, I don't know. About whenever you see something which surprises you, sometimes it has wonderful effects afterwards. The wonderful effects are, instead of getting angry and upset and blaming somebody, why? And then, if the Buddha's involved somewhere along the line, there's always something sort of usually inspiring happens. And the most inspiring part of that story, I didn't mean to say this, but here it comes, was that this lady, Visakha, said, "Can I be the only one who offers these rainy season bathing cloths to all the monks and all the nuns and lots of other things, to all the Sangha members who stay here for the rains?" And then of course the Buddha said, "Why just you? Other people would also like to join in. Why just you?" And what she said afterwards was kind of what inspired me. He said, "Well, if it's just me who offers these rainy season bathing cloths and medicines and other gifts to the Sangha, I will know that if during the rainy season retreat, if any monk or nun gets up one of these beautiful deep meditations, jhanas, or gets any of these insights which makes them enlightened, I will know that I gave them a robe." When I think of that, that will make me so inspired that I too will have more chance of getting the deep meditations and the liberating insights of enlightenment. And when the Buddha heard that from this lady Visakha, well done, sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. You can understand the Dhamma that way. So he gave her the sole permission to do that. And it just is a beautiful story, how dana and sila, dana, the generosity, the sila, the precepts, how that does lead to deep meditation. Sometimes you look at your renunciation, look at how you keep, even just the 5 precepts we're supposed to be keeping here, and how you have the wisdom of forgiveness of the past. Basically, it doesn't matter what you've done. Okay, this story. I love this story because this is, modern times. When I did a little test, oh my goodness, 8:46, where did that go? I'm disturbing the time now. Stop. Where, we had a retreat here, it was one of the BSWA retreats. And we had a really good cook, but that day, a couple of days before, she telephoned me to say that her husband had developed cancer. And her partner's health was most important. So she said, "I can't come to be the cook on your retreat." And of course that left me in the poo. I had all these people coming for the retreat and no cook. And I can't cook. The first thing I thought of was, let's having this like a health retreat. No food. But no, you can't do that. But then an idea came and I followed it through. And it was one of the most beautiful innovations I've ever done. We managed to find a cook. His name was Carl. He still comes to the monastery. And We managed to get him, no cost, total free of charge. And he was a brilliant cook. I remember, sometimes when we have a cook, you go and see them, see how they cook. One of those cooks, which I remember you saw, that one of the first times we had a retreat, not here, we actually hired a place to do the retreat. And a similar thing, somebody got very sick, so they couldn't actually be the real cooks. So we got one of our Anagarikas. The Anagarika we had at that time, being our cook, was this person who eventually became Ajahn Santuti. I don't know if you've ever seen him cook, but a lot of the Singaporeans saw him cook because the word got around. He was such a wonderful cook to watch. He was just so happy, just with a big wok, frying all sorts of stuff, with a big smile on his face all the time. And no one was actually listening to my talk. They were all down in the kitchen watching him cook. That's an exaggeration, but there's some truth to that. And he enjoyed it. That's one of the reasons why he's a very, very, very good monk. I really respect him. Whatever he does, he puts his heart into it. If it's in Australia, usually we say he puts his heart and soul into it, because we don't believe in the soul, which is to say he puts his heart into it, and that was more than enough. So, anyway, for this time, I didn't have a cook, so I asked this guy. I said, yeah, I can do that. So everything was lined up, and he was such a good cook. I watched him do pizzas. He'd do pizzas just from the flour. He'd make it all himself, lots of them, because it was for 60 people plus all the helpers and stuff. And it was incredible what he did. And just in about a couple of hours, that's what he took. And so much other food as well. And of course, at the end of the retreat, many of you have been on these retreats before. What happens? We do like loving kindness, and we do thanks ceremony. Thanks to all the people who helped on this retreat. And so they said, we want to say thank you to Carl. Where is he? He says, he's gone back to prison now. We got him off on work release for 8 days. And they were all shocked. He was such a beautiful guy, so helpful. And then I continued actually somebody asked me, what's he in prison for? Rape. And everyone was silent. I could read their minds. What? You've allowed such a guy to come and cook for us for the last 7 or 8, 9 days? Yes. When you first came in, did anybody of you ever guess what he'd done when he was young, on drugs, big mistakes? But he did it. And they were disgusted at me. Until I said, were any of you afraid of him? I said, no. I trusted him. And I looked at him, and I could guarantee just how well he would behave. Just because you've done a terrible hurt for others does not mean you're going to ever do it again. Because I trusted him. That's where I get that Dhamma teaching. All those years I've visited people in jail. I've never seen a thief. I've never seen a murderer. I've never seen sort of a fraudster or a terrorist. All I've ever seen is a person who did a terrorist act. I've seen a person who done thievery. I've seen a person who murdered. That does not make them a murderer. There's much more to them than those mistakes, those very hurtful offences. Much more to them. And that's one of the reasons why. That once they get to be wise, they realize they will never do that again. Because they're not a thief. They're a person who's stolen. They do much more. And when they focus on the good part of themselves, which is always there, it's amazing how the bad part never comes up again. So, good old Carl, he's supposed to be coming here to the monastery to help prepare for the Katina soon, coming with his son. He's happily married, works hard, and he's always got gratitude towards me. So I'm sure, I hope when he comes, you can invite him over here, just, have a look. See just how this jhana growth has developed over these years. And how that teaching, that's what it was, a teaching. A terrible mistake which hurt many people. There's so much other things you do in your life. You learn from it, you forgive it. That's one of the other things which the monks and nuns do. It's on Tuesday afternoon, late afternoon, we do what's called a forgiveness ceremony, pawarana. We invite everybody, all the other Sangha members, if there's anything you've seen by body, speech or mind, which was wrong, shouldn't have done, please let me know. We ask forgiveness of each other. And that forgiveness is so powerful when it's done with sincerity. That's how we grow. We don't mess around again. Even just when I went over to see Ajahn Brahm down in Albany just last weekend and came back on Monday, that there was a marriage blessing somebody wanted me to do. I don't mind doing marriage blessings as long as people really listen. And this couple, eventually they were laughing and celebrating their marriage, but then got kind of serious. And I told them the story of this lady over in Malaysia. I know what's her name again. She had her own TV show, so she was very well known and famous. And she saw that I was going to be in Malacca teaching a weekend retreat the same weekend that she was getting married. So can you please just come and just do the blessing for my marriage? So off I went. And she wrote in an article which she sent to me a year and a half later. It was a wonderful marriage blessing with all the usual pieces of advice. All the usual pieces of advice? The 3 rings of marriage? I haven't said that for a long time. You all know the 3 rings of marriage? First ring is the engagement ring, second ring is a wedding ring, the third ring is caring. Got ya. Or marriage is like a pack of playing cards. You start off with 2 hearts, diamond, then out come the clubs. But anyway, the one thing which I did say, serious, was that I asked her, as I asked this couple last Monday, every time you have an anniversary, it can be within a day or 2 of last Monday next year, can you please, just the 2 of you, have a quiet little ceremony together, dinner or a cup of tea or whatever, and then you do this forgiveness ceremony. You can take it in turns. say the husband looks at his wife and says, "Darling, whatever I have done, whatever, by body, by speech or mind, which has hurt you, either intentional or just by accident." Most things are done by accident, but some are intentional. Or things which I didn't do, which I should have done. With all sincerity, please forgive me. And as I was brought up as a Buddhist, in Thailand by Ajahn Brahm, if someone asks forgiveness sincerely, you always have to give it. Forgive them. And then it's the other person's turn. So then the wife says to the husband, anything which I have done by body, speech or mind, intentional or unintentional, which may have hurt you, or things I didn't do which I should have done, I'm sorry. I really love you. I really want to do better. So please let me know so I can improve. And you always forgive them too. And she said this was the most important piece of advice which I gave at her wedding in Malacca. And she would always actually do anything for me. I gave a big talk over in KL some years ago, and she volunteered to be my MC, which was very nice. She knew how to be an MC. And that's what this forgiveness, how powerful it can be. That's part of your precepts. You forgive. Forgive yourself. And that allows you to do so much better next time. And you get respect of others. So, if any of the stories I've told this morning you've heard before, I ask forgiveness. That wasn't sincere. But I think you can understand how I mean. When you have that degree of precepts, you get very light-hearted. You don't carry around all of the mistakes you've made in your life. I've made plenty of mistakes. I just admit that. Actually, have a look in that corner. In that corner is a mistake in the floor. It doesn't really match up, not like a square. Can you see that? Jay? You can't? Oh. Okay. That's the trouble. If you've ever been a builder, you know all the mistakes. But anyhow, this is where you learn your precepts to be honest, you're not to be afraid of anything, and own up, ask forgiveness, do better next time. And that means that you're creating a sense of trust and warmth. And that means it's so much easier to meditate. You sit down there and there's no burdens you're carrying around with you, no weight on your mind. And you live a wonderful, peaceful life. And you can actually live so light-heartedly, so peacefully, so calm. Your precepts, we have 5 precepts here, please don't kill anything. Especially don't kill your next door neighbour in the cottage who snores so much. And no stealing. What do you want to steal anyway here? We've got plenty for everybody. Enough food, isn't there? And what else have we got? Precepts. No adultery. And it's interesting that sometimes people criticize me. Ajahn Brahm, please don't talk about sexual things. You're a monk. But I've been a monk for such a long time now, 51 years. And so there's no way I'm going to break any of those type of precepts. So because of that, I don't mind saying it's very beautiful when you are an honest, sincere celibate. You're not just saying that to deceive people. Because it does mean You can speak to anybody. I think you can actually confirm this with me. If I was an ordinary male talking to you, then especially the women, you feel a bit sort of, is he sincere? Anything I need to be afraid of? But if you're a real celibate male, you can talk to anybody exactly the same. And you have no fear. So you can actually connect. And, of course, alcohol. I don't know why people want to drink alcohol. Just a cup of tea is much nicer. But anyway, all those precepts, it's nice when you keep them. You feel so empowered, so free. And that's one of the reasons why monastics, that's what we do. Okay, so it's just gone past 9 o'clock, a little bit. We did start late. So thank you for listening to the first talk. I was going to tell you about the different ways of meditating. They'll come next. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Sadhu, sadhu. Excellent. Now on the first day we'd never have any interviews, normally, because you haven't really done enough meditation yet to really get into the interview stuff. That's my excuse. I know it's only an excuse, but it's good enough. You got anything to announce? You got the microphone there? Eileen?
Yes, I need to announce some of the rooms and the retreatants have not filled in properly. So, after you leave.
Well, sometimes, being the teacher, still you love actually to be, even if it doesn't help you at all, it's like a part of the community.